Back, students of VA Part 2 English Literature. We have come back with our this video on Nissim Ezekiel's Night of the Scorpion. And if you remember, in the last lecture we had talked about a background of the poet, the biographical description of Nissim Ezekiel, his literary achievements, and a background to the poem Night of the Scorpion and the various themes discussed in the poem. So, in this lecture, as I mentioned last time, we will study in detail the poem Night of the Scorpion. As usual, let us first read it aloud to feel the rhythm of the poem and just to get a cursory understanding of the poem before going into depth. Night of the Scorpion. I remember the night my mother was stung by a scorpion. 10 hours of steady rain had driven him to crawl beneath a sack of rice. Parting with his poison, flash of diabolic tail in the dark room, he risked the rain again. The peasants came like swarms of flies and buzzed the name of God 100 times to paralyze the evil one. With candles and with lanterns throwing giant scorpion shadows on the mud baked walls, they searched for him. He was not found. They clicked their tongues with every movement that the scorpion made his poison moved in mother's blood. They said, May he sit still, they said. May the sins of your previous birth be burned away tonight, they said. May your suffering decrease the misfortunes of your next birth, they said. May the sum of all evil balanced in this unreal world against the sum of good become diminished by your pain. May the poison purify your flesh of desire and your spirit of ambition, they said, and they sat around on the floor with my mother in the center, the peace of understanding on each face. More candles, more lanterns, more neighbors, more insects, and the endless rain. My mother twisted through and through, groaning on a mat. My father, skeptic, rationalist, trying every curse and blessing, powder, mixture, herb, and hybrid. He even poured a little paraffin upon the bitten toe and put a match to it. I watched the flame feeding on my mother. I watched the holy man perform his rites to tame the poison with an incantation. After 20 hours, it lost its sting. My mother only said, Thank God the scorpion picked on me and spared my children. So you'll find, students, that this poem, unlike the poems we have studied of the British poets, is almost like a storytelling in a rhythm. It's a narrative poem. A story is being told, which I have already explained to you, that the poet's mother had been bitten by a scorpion when it had been raining for a long time, and the scorpion wanted to just save itself and entered into the room of this village cottage and hid itself under the sack of rice after biting the mother. So basically, this is a poem with 8 stanzas and a total of 47 lines. There is no set rhyme scheme and the meter is mixed. The scorpion is seen by some, how we analyze this, basically it is simple incidents. But then when we come to analysis, we find that some people do analyze it as an evil force, a diabolic. The word diabolic refers to something evil, bringer of pain and hardship and even death. In this poem it is a Scorpio, but the way the villagers react to this, in the way that they pray to God and talk about all the spiritual beliefs of overcoming sin through pain, they reflect upon any kind of evil force which affects human life. So the use of the word diabolic, the desperate creature stings the woman and makes off into the rain. The peasants are seen as being superstitious and old fashioned, even illiterate, not having moved on in their thinking and culture, because instead of treating the patient who has been bit by a poisonous insect, they are not taking her to any medical aid. but sitting all around her in a circle and trying to treat her through the incantations, the prayers to God, which we all know will not help. And the father was opposite in the sense that he is rational, reductive type of person who's unimpressed by the peasants and their all kind of activities they were doing. Yet he resorts to using wax on the mother's stove, setting it alight, which is also not a very scientific response to burn the place where you're. So though he is different from the peasant, but he also is not able to use the right medical aid. The mother perseveres through this painful agony all night, but finally wins over, triumphs, and does not succumb to the poison or the venom of the scorpion. And for all that time, she was unable to speak a word because she was in so much pain, capable of only her groans until the pain subsided and the relief she felt gave her a power to sum her experience up. What is the first line she says after she gains uh, consciousness to the surroundings? Thank God it was her who took the sting and not her children, for they probably would not have survived. So many themes you will find have been taken up in this simple narrative poem, and the poem begins at the beginning with the speaker starting the story of how his mother was stung by a scorpion. Here, the poet Ezekiel does not use unnecessary phrasing of extra words, and he gets right to the point and describes how the scorpion had been driven inside by steady rain. The first stanza is of only 4 lines, a choice Ezekiel makes to urge the story forward, and a quick succession of stanzas allows the poem to flow faster, just like a narrative. The second stanza proceeds in the same way, but this time with only 3 lines. So, in the first stanza, Ezekiel describes the actions of the scorpion and he portrays the creature as being purposefully evil. The word used is diabolical, a thought that will directly relate to the beliefs and actions of those that attend the speaker's mother. Why is he called diabolical by the poet purposefully? An evil who is evil, something who has come to bring negativities. The scorpion moves quickly before anyone can do anything, and the poet says he parts with his poison and runs back outside in the rain to risk that weather again. So, throughout this poem, Ezekiel makes a number of language choices and continue to reference the movements and parts of different insects. And these descriptions are very prevalent in the third stanza. He describes the actions of the farmers as being like swarms of flies. So, this is a simile. They buzzed God's name in a hope to paralyze the evil one. So, you find the use of figurative speech of similes. The farmers are being compared to a group of flies hovering around the mother. The image that Ezekiel creates here is very clear. The reader can easily visualize a swarm or a group of people coming down on the speaker's mother with all good intentions. They want her to be cured, but there are so many and no one can do anything to help her. And the method they employ is also not useful, it's not scientific, because they are just praying in the hope of saving the mother, and they believe that she has been uh, inflicted by the evil diabolic devil and pray in an effort to drive him out, while this will not work in such a situation. The peasants came like swarms of flies and buzzed the name of God 100 times. The fourth stanza contains 7 lines and describes the hunt that the peasants embark on in an effort to find the scorpion. And they search the scorpion with candles and lanterns, which, because it's a dark room, the village cottage room, which throws shadows on the walls, which are of mud. So it's a village side in the shape of a scorpion. The images are of the shape of the scorpion. The image of the scorpion still being in the room in the form of a shadow helps set the scene for the next lines as the farmers struggle to help the mother. The shadow is representative of their primitive fears that something evil is lurking just where they cannot see it. This fourth stanza continues, and the search for scorpion has failed. They do not know, as the reader does, the scorpion fled the house at the beginning of the poem. This puts the reader in a position above those in the poem. So, this is a technique which is normally used in drama, which is called dramatic irony. And so in the further lines it says, with every movement that the scorpion made, his poison moved in mother's blood. This gives the reader the sense that they believe if they are able to capture and kill the scorpion, the mother will be cured. A simple primitive belief that the reader would very well know to be unfounded. Once again, elevating the reader's position above that of the peasants. We know that finding the Scorpio will not help the poison of the mother go away from her body. It requires some medical treatment. But the farmers, they are being illiterate, they are not able to understand it. The fifth paragraph, also of 7 lines, poem, momentum steady. The peasants wish the Scorpio to be stilled. And but offer a bit of consolation for the mother. They, deep in their superstition, say to the mother that the poison will burn away the sins of her previous birth and decrease the suffering of her next. So this is the philosophy, Indian philosophy, where we feel that we understand, especially in the religious context, that if whatever suffering we have in our life is going to melt away the wrongdoings of the previous births. So nothing to say about this philosophy, but the point the poet wants to make is that at this point of time when you are suffering or you are going through some phase where you require attention of the medical, you should not you cannot take use of or help of such kinds of philosophies. This is a reference to the traditional Hindu belief of reincarnation, and due to their being illiterate, it was believed that the mother must have committed some kind of sin to be condemned to this life, and that perhaps the suffering she is going through will improve her chances of being reincarnated into a higher position in her next life. So, this is the religious belief. So, this stanza continues into the next, in which the speaker uh, relaying the words of the peasants. They again and again they are repeated that they said, they said, they said. They wish that the pain the mother is experiencing will purify her flesh of what? Of desire and your spirit ambition. So by this time, the farmers have given up their search for the scorpion, and they are now sitting around the mother with her at the center. The speaker describes each farmer as wearing a face that is peaceful, with understanding that this is the only way we can cure the mother. The next 2 lines allow for quick progression of time, and the poet lists a number of developments and additions to the story. More candles, more lanterns, more neighbors. So, how people hover around the um mother. The mother is twisting on the floor. She is in pain because of the poison, groaning into the mat. It can be assumed that quite a large crowd has gathered. All the people from the village have come. Many there are to help, and probably some there just to observe. And at this point in the story, the father is introduced into the poem, and he is described as being a very sensible, rational man, most likely doubtful of the beliefs of the peasants. At this moment, though he is desperate, Ezekiel's speaker describes his father as trying. What does he try? Every curse and blessing, powder, mixture, herb, and hybrid. His father has forgotten his reason and is trying everything he can think of in an effort to save his wife. While the reader may have felt some distance from the characters at this point, the father's desperation feels real and acute. Naturally, the father is very worried and does not know how to bring the mother of the poet back. A man hopeful beyond reason that a curse or blessing will save his wife. He even goes so far as to burn wax, that is paraffin, on her toe, so that it burns, the poison is burned. The speaker watches the flames it creates feeding on his mother, because just as the poison is moving through her body, so is the flame uh, consuming her skin. The reader is then informed that all of this has been going on for 24 hours. So you can be asked a question, for how long does the mother suffer a truly painful and horrific incidents. Throughout the poem, a number of different remedies are tried in an attempt to save the mother. So the question can be asked that what all is being tried from, but nothing is helped. Some of these practices will surely seem absurd to a modern reader, And these references to older medicinal practices but distance between the reader and the speaker, especially in the final line of the seventh stanza, in which a holy man performs his rites to tame the poison with an incantation. So, how can you tame a poison in the belief that it is a devil? So that will naturally, we understand from our modern perspective, these things will not help the patient. But if we go in villages, still such practices are being followed. So Ezekiel swiftly breaks down the barrier to show how truly similar the reader is, no matter where she's from. They are all human and are united in the final stanza. My mother only said, "Thank God the scorpion picked on me and spared my children." So the mother's dedication and pure love for her children breaches the gap between the characters in the poem and any reader, and we can empathize with the love felt for a child, mother, or father. The woman, although distant, living in a different time and place, is just as human and real as anyone reading the poem. So you find that how various, in a very satirical manner, also you find that uh, poet has dealt with this a commonplace incidents which occurs in villages even today, uh, after so much of literacy has come up. So what you have to observe or you have to take into consideration is the theme of the poem, and because there are many themes here about the way the villagers see the perspectives of the villagers and the perspective of the mother, how the father behaves. So this is the drama, and how the dramatic element brings out in this poem. So it is a simple reading, not a very difficult poem. So you can read it and try to attempt the questions from the last year question papers to see whether you can answer or not. And then in our other lectures, we can take up the questions from you. So thank you.